Hey guys, Aaron here. Today we're going to be doing a transmission drain and fill and filter replacement on a F-150 with a 3.5 liter EcoBoost. However, it's the same procedure if you have the 2.7 or 5.0. I'm pretty sure year is 2008 through current, which is 2018, as long as it's the 6R80 and 6R60 transmission. So went ahead, got the proper Motorcraft fluid, the LV Mercon. That's highly recommended. Don't really recommend any aftermarket transmission fluid other than the Motorcraft OE fluid. Went ahead, got myself a OE style transmission pan gasket. It's the metal gasket that is coated in rubber, seals really nicely. Got my filter, and the tools you're going to need to do this is just a 5/16 or an 8mm. I'm using this Milwaukee power wrench or power ratchet with a 8mm end on it. It's going to help get those bolts off, and there's actually a couple tips and tricks along the way I'm going to show you to get the job done right. Here is a fluid exchanger that actually goes right into the quart itself, and it helps you pump because these transmissions don't have a dipstick. There's nothing really to pour it into except for the transmission itself. So let's go ahead and get started with this job, and I'll show you the first step. Alright, so here we are underneath the passenger side of the vehicle, and as you can see, there's this plug right here. This is actually going to be your fill plug, and it's your dipstick. What we're going to do first is remove this because I don't know if you know, but this transmission will hold a vacuum, and it's going to be very hard to release the pan if we don't remove this. Plus, if you have any problems removing this and you do remove the pan, obviously you can't fill your transmission, so this is going to be the first step to remove this plug. Alright, and when you have your plug out, you'll see your dipstick actually comes out, and there it is. So we're going to go ahead and toss this aside. Now that we have it out, we can go ahead and remove the bolts. Now one little trick here, or tip, is actually I'm going to remove all the front bolts, and I'm going to work my way back to the exhaust, and I'm going to remove all the bolts except for the back two on the passenger side. And what that's going to do is it's going to allow the pan to drop at an angle, and it's going to allow most of the transmission fluid that's not in the pan, that's above the pan, to come out, and it's going to make removing the pan a whole lot easier. Alright, so with all the bolts but one removed, slowly tilt and lower the pan, and as you will notice, you'll start to get a lot leaking out. Go ahead and hold it there for a minute just to get most of the fluid that's going to fall out, and then once you have a lot of fluid out, you can go ahead and remove that last bolt and take the pan off. Alright, so with the pan out, first thing definitely is to clean off this magnet. Magnet's pretty strong, so you got to pry it off, and as you can see, there's a lot of metal shavings on it, so go ahead, get that sucker nice and clean. Then I'm going to get all this old oil out and wash this pan thoroughly. Alright, so after we cleaned our pan, what I like to do is get it here on the mating surface and just make sure it's all good and clean, free of any debris, free of any excessive oil. You are going to get some oil before you install your pan, but it's not going to cause any major leaks or anything like that. But just make sure all the grime is off the mating surface of the gasket. Definitely don't want to be doing this job twice. And so here's the hole where the filter goes. Make sure before you put your filter in your new one that it's free and clean and clear of any debris whatsoever. That way the filter stays in place while you get your pan bolted on. So as you can see, we got our filter on. Next step's going to be put on our pan with our gasket. What I like to do is I like to do one bolt on this side, one bolt on the other side, or one or two, and just hold it there loosely. Don't tighten the bolts up. Just allow yourself to get all the bolts in before you tighten up all the bolts. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then we'll follow up with the torque specification of the pan bolts. Alright, so I went ahead, got all the bolts in, and the factory torque specification for these bolts is 106 inch-pounds, which equals roughly 8 to 9 foot-pounds if you have a foot-pound wrench. But if you have an inch-pound, that's the proper way to do it. Just note that this transmission is made out of aluminum, so the threads that this bolt goes into is aluminum. It's very easy to strip them, so not too much torque is needed to seal this transmission pan. So next thing we're going to do is fill the transmission through the hole of the little miniature dipstick. We're going to put 4.5 quarts in starting out, and then I'll show you how to properly check it once the engine's running. Alright, so we got our 4.5 quarts in, and now what we need to do is put our dipstick back in, and start the engine. Run it through all of your gears, shut it off, and recheck your level. One thing that Ford wants you to do is have the temperature of the transmission up to normal operating temperature, so let it run for 5 or 6 minutes. I really don't like doing that because the catalytic converter is right here, and as you can see, I'm really close to it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the fluid, make sure that the fluid is at the low mark, and as the temperature rises in the transmission, the level will rise because the oil expands when it's hot. So what I've seen from other guys on YouTube and even on forums like Identifix and AllData, what you could do is just, when it's cold, make sure it's on the low level, and as the temperature warms up, it will go to where it's supposed to be. So that's a pretty good indicator there. It's just that this catalytic converter is about 4 inches from the transmission fill hole, so definitely got burned a couple times doing that. So there's just a little tip there. Alright, so I went ahead, started it, ran it, added about another 1.5 quarts from the 4.5, so just under 6 quarts is what it took. And as you can see, it's kind of hard to see on this phone, but it's at the beginning of the cross hatches on the dipstick, so as the temperature rises, it will start to rise to where the appropriate level is. So I'm going to go ahead and put this dipstick back and call it good, and then put our cap back on with our 19mm or 3/4. And that's pretty much it, guys. I hope this video has helped you out, maybe saved you some money, saved you some time. If it has, please like and subscribe, and if you have any questions, leave something in the comment section. Take care, guys.